Open Line Friday. Okay, back here to Gary Wolfram, Hillsdale College. The Wall Street protesters, in their hatred of capitalism, overlook things, including the fact that over the last 100 years, capitalism has reduced poverty more and increased life expectancy more than in the 100,000 years prior. Every semester, I ask my students, what would you rather be? King of England in 1263 or you? It turns out all the students say they'd rather be themselves. Now, they enjoy using their iPhone, indoor plumbing, central heating, refrigerators, electric lighting. By the way, this goes to a question I ask frequently on this program. And I've asked this question over and over again. How is it that a nation of less than 250 years became the most powerful nation on earth in human history, outdoing nations and civilizations that have been around for thousands of years or multiple hundreds of years? How is it that we were able to conceive ourselves out of nothing 200 plus years ago and become a power for good, an economic power unlike any the world's ever seen? Our DNA is no different than the DNA of people in Europe or Asia. How did this happen? This gets to it, in part. How is it that for thousands of years mankind made very little progress in increasing the standard of living, and yet today half of the goods and services you use in the next week did not exist when I was born? This is the professor talking to his students. How is it that for thousands of years, mankind made very little progress in increasing the standard of living, and yet, now think of that, thousands of years and the standard of living stayed constant and went nowhere, and yet, today, half of the goods and services you use next week didn't exist when I was born. It wasn't that there was some change in the DNA such that we got smarter. The Greeks knew how to make a steam engine 3,000 years ago, but they never made one. The difference is in how we organize our economic system. The advent of market capitalism in the mid-18th century made all of the difference. We don't have to rely just on historical data. Look at cross-section evidence. I try another experiment with my students. I tell them that they're about to be born and they can choose whatever country in the world they'd like to be born in. The only caveat is that they will be the poorest person in that country. You can choose wherever. The point of this question is, you can choose wherever you want to get born, but you're going to be born the poorest person in the country. So you better choose a place that offers you upward mobility. That's what he's getting at here. Every student picks a country that is primarily organized in a market capitalist system. Nobody picks a centrally planned state. Nobody. None of my students have ever said, I want to be born in Cuba. Nobody says, I want to be born in Zimbabwe. Nobody says, I want to be born in North Korea. What does it mean to be born poor in our capitalist society that the Occupy Wall Street crowd so hates? Robert Rector, Heritage Foundation, has several studies of those classified as poor by the U.S. Census Bureau, and we've gone through this before. 80% of poor people in this country in 2010 had air conditioning, 75% had a car, truck, 2/3 had satellite or cable TV, half of the poor had a personal computer, more than 2/3 had at least 2 rooms per person. Contrast that with what it means to be poor in Mumbai, India, a country that is moving rapidly toward market capitalism, but was burdened for decades with a socialist system. The Occupy Wall Street movement has shown a lack of understanding of how the market capitalist system works, and that's primarily, folks, because they haven't been taught yet. They've been taught socialist utopia crap. They appear to think that the cell phones they use, the food they eat, the hotels they stay in, the cars they drive, the gasoline that they use, and all the myriad goods and services they consume every day would be there under a different system. They even think they might even be in more abundance and more fairly distributed in a different system. But there's no evidence that this could be or ever has been the case. The reason is that only market capitalism solves the two major problems that face any economy. One, how to provide an incentive to innovate, and two, how to solve the problem of decentralized information. The reason there is so much innovation in a market system compared to socialism is that profit provides the incentive for innovators to take the risk needed to come up with new products. My mother never once complained that we didn't have access to the latest Soviet washing machine. We never desired a Soviet car. The socialist system relies on what Adam Smith referred to as the benevolent butcher. And while there will undoubtedly be benevolent butchers out there, clearly a system that provides monetary rewards for innovators is much more dynamic and successful. The profit that the Occupy Wall Street protesters decry is the reason the world has access to clean water and antiviral drugs that they need now. The other major problem that must be solved by any economic system is how to deal with the fact that information is so decentralized. For example, there is no way for a central planner to know how many hot dogs 300 million Americans are going to want at every moment in time. A central planner cannot know the relative value of resources in the production of various goods and services. Market capitalism solves that problem through the price system. If there are too few hot dogs, the price will rise. More hot dogs will be produced. Too many hot dogs are produced, the price of hot dogs will fall, and fewer will be produced. There's more. Be right back.